Hello, my name is Roxanna Diaz and I am going for my Master's in Early Childhood Education. Today I'm going to be talking to you about current issues in education, particularly social justice in education and teaching today's learners. Social justice in education. In the United States education history, we have seen social injustices throughout many ways, whether that be through unequal access to education or denied access to education to specific groups. As educators, we have the power to change the injustice every day in many ways. It's important for us to recognize where the injustice is happening and advocate for what we believe to be right. It is our ethical duty as educators to be critically conscious about the social injustices occurring in our own schools and communities. When making curricular decisions, we must consider being culturally relevant, which can be as simple as knowing a little bit about every student's background. Acknowledging and showing that we value students is one step in creating a classroom for social justice. Teaching today's learners. In a society where gender, culture, and sexual diversity are all fully recognized, it is our ethical duty to set aside our biases and include, embrace, and see these differences as a learning opportunity in our classroom. I have learned that learning best takes place in a positive, safe environment filled with warmth and laughter. My goal is to teach with passion, commitment, and love. In my teaching methods, I will identify students' strengths and weaknesses. This way, I will know how to meet each student where they are and encourage them to make connections to their own life. I will facilitate their learning to be inquiry-based and related to existing schema. It is my responsibility to vary my instruction for differing skill levels and provide extra one-to-one support for struggling learners. I have to be someone they can trust so they are comfortable transitioning between home and school. I believe that effective learning requires a collaboration between teacher, student, and home caretaker. I want each of my students' families to feel good about dropping their child off every morning, knowing that they're going to have an exciting day full of new opportunities and learning. As future leaders of education, we have the power to create and implement transformative practices in our classroom and school systems that are inclusive of all students. It is imperative that we keep an open mind and keep up with the latest research. Doing so, we are making sure that each student's needs are being met and that each student feels that they are cared for, invited, and safe in their school environment.